Hey guys, Dr. Butch here. How you doing? Dr. Butch Warner. So I want to give you a video today about what a healthy relationship looks like versus a dysfunctional relationship. And my sources are the Bible, Scripture, 1 Corinthians 13 and 1 John 4. And the theoretical framework comes from Murray Bowen's family systems. And according to Murray Bowen, Mnuchin, Ainsworth, the specialist in attachment. One thing that is important is the concept of differentiation versus enmeshment. Now, codependency is a word thrown around a lot today, but codependency actually has its roots in the theory of enmeshment. And what enmeshment means is that there's an emotional blob and people are dependent on this emotional blob. And the family relationship is held together by anxiety. Now, another word for anxiety is called phobia, which comes from Greek, which comes from the New Testament, phobia. And so a dysfunctional relationship is held together by fear and anxiety and phobia. And so everyone's afraid to hurt each other's feelings. Everyone's afraid to not feel the same way everyone else is feeling. Everyone doesn't name the elephant in the room. They just kind of stay in this emotional blob. And this leads to anxiety and depression because when you're enmeshed, you're not your authentic self. You're trying to be someone that someone else wants you to be, so people relate to that, what I call the pseudo ego, instead of the true ego, who you really are. Ego simply comes from Greek. It's the word ego, which means I am. So it's the way you differentiate yourself and express your individuality. So understanding that people relate to your pseudo ego, the person you're trying to please, which causes people pleasing, which is very unhealthy, very dysfunctional because you can't make anyone else happy. You can only make yourself happy through proper emotional regulation and authenticity. So, this produces loneliness, doubt, doubt, self criticism, because you're never able to make anyone else happy. So, you're stuck in this behavior of perfectionism that you can never attain, like the carrot attached to the donkey's head. No matter how hard you try to make mom happy, no matter how hard you try to make dad happy, you can't make them happy. And a healthy relationship isn't about making the parents happy. A healthy relationship is about the parents loving and building up the child. And that's a healthy relationship which produces differentiation, which means that people are allowed to be individuals. I'm not talking about bad behaviors, but I'm talking about healthy behaviors that come from how God made us, because God made us awesome and amazing. It's the chaos and information and criticism of the world that creates self doubt to that and causes us to function in our pseudo ego to relate to others and people pleasing, which creates loneliness because no one is relating to your authentic self, which leads to anxiety and depression because the system's held together by anxiety. Now, a healthy family system is held together by love, where people relate to the awesomeness that God made you to be. And God made you to be awesome. And as you give yourself positive affirmations and you build up your children, you don't turn them into narcissists. Narcissists are actually someone that has a weak self-image and massive insecurity, and they cover that through the compensatory mechanism of selfishness. And so everything's about them, and since they don't have healthy relationships or even know what a healthy relationship is, they seek to control other people. And control is actually demonic. It's the sin of witchcraft, trying to control and dominate others. That's evil. And the Old Testament said, take the witch out and get rid of her. Because we don't need witchcraft in our relationships. And if you're trying to control people and dominate them and do this, that's the spirit of witchcraft, the spirit of control, because it is in rebellion to God, which is love, and God doesn't control us; He influences us. If you ever get involved with the devil and his plan for your life, it's all about being controlled and impulsivity and habits you don't want to have, and cognitive dissonance because you behave in a way that is not pleasing to your real true ego, and you behave in ways that are bad, so you get stuck with self-criticism and self-doubt and negative self-talk. I tell people, since you're created in the image of God and your authentic self is awesome, bad behaviors come from the programming of this world that take you away from your authentic self, if that makes sense. And I'll have to do a separate video on what all that means because that's a deep subject. So, when you're taken away from your authentic self, people relate to you and it causes self criticism because you can't make other people happy. Well, I tell people, who are you to criticize what God made? Your creation that He made you in is awesome and amazing. So you need to stick to that and you need to realize that. And when you get in control of your authentic self, your impulsivity goes away because your authentic self is imprinted with God's plan for your life and you're on the journey for God's plan for your life. When we read the New Testament, especially King James Version, when we get the word perfect, be ye perfect, that word is not understood correctly today because of how language morphs. The Greek word there is the word teleos, which means to be on a journey to the destiny of the plan that God imprinted on your life. And what is God's plan for your life? Well, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, Jeremiah 29:11. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. So, a differentiated, healthy family system is not based on anxiety, but it's based on love. First John 4:18 says, there is no phobia in love, there is no fear in love, but perfect love, the love that's going on your teleos journey toward what God has for you. But perfect love drives out fear because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. So we don't have to wallow in fear and anxiety and worry about holding on to a relationship. When we're allowed to differentiate and be our authentic self, relationships get bonded because we start listening to each other, and when we listen to each other, we're not formulating our response, but we're genuinely listening to the other person and giving them feedback about what they're saying. That produces oxytocin in the brain, which is the bonding chemical, which makes you trust each other and feel close to each other and feel intimate with each other. And for couples, it's the necessary bond that creates healthy human sexuality. And the most important thing in a family system is not for the mother caring for the children, is for the mother and father to be in harmony so that they can drive out fear and produce the love of God and fill their children up with the love of God so they can operate in the fruit of the Spirit in a family, which is love, joy, peace, kindness, forgiveness. You know the fruit of the Spirit from the book of Galatians. Now, what is love? How do I know that I'm operating in love? How do I know what love is? Well, Paul helped us with that in 1 Corinthians 13. So, this is how we should operate together. This is how we should operate in a family. This is how we should operate in church. Something that grinds my gears is when a couple goes to church and they act righteous and then they get in the car and fight with each other. That is not God's plan for your life. That is people involved in enmeshment and they're not differentiated in a healthy way. and they're not relating to each other's authentic self that God created to be awesome. So in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4, it says that love is patient. Okay, we need patience in our relationships. Love is kind. We need kindness and respect in our relationships. It does not envy, which means we're not keeping score with each other. Oh, you did this and I did this and you did this or I did this or that's envy. It does not boast. You're not, well, I do everything right. Or the worst thing is victimization. Oh, I'm the victim. You do everything wrong. That because if you're a victim, you have bad self esteem in your authentic self, and bad self esteem is actually demonic if you think about it, because God created you to be awesome. And when people have bad self esteem, they're only focused on themselves. I did this wrong. I did that wrong. I doubt myself here. I doubt myself there. And the only thing you focus on is yourself instead of healthy relationship with God and healthy relationship with others. That's where the word righteousness comes in. People make righteousness all kinds of things. I don't drink, smoke, or chew, or date girls that do when I was a kid, which is, antiquated, hopefully. Or, I wear a long dress, or I don't cut my hair, or I don't do this, or I don't do that. Paul deals with that in Colossians chapter 2 and 3, and he says those things do nothing to restrain the sensual nature. So all these legalistic man-made things are actually demonic because Satan was the first one to add a rule to something. God didn't operate in rules. He operated in relationship. He walked in the garden with Adam and Eve, and then when the Nakash, the seraphim, which is what the word snake gets translated as, but it actually means seraphim. Nakash, a bright shining seraphim. When that amazing looking seraphim talked to Eve, he said, didn't God say you cannot eat of this fruit or touch it? You see, that was never said by God. He added a rule because Satan can't have a relationship with God and he can't be righteous. And I'll explain that in just a sec. So he becomes legalistic. And that's where legalism comes from. And legalism is really demonic if you think about it because it controls people through anxiety instead of the love of God. Does that make sense? So then when we go to the original word for righteousness, Sadek in Hebrew, it literally means nothing more than laying your head on God's chest, which is your father, and having healthy that and that implies healthy relationships in your relationships with your father and your mother and your children. So love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others. Man, I see couples call each other names and tear each other down. That is not godly. That is horrible. Stop doing that. It is not self seeking. This is powerful. It's not easily angered, which means that you're not walking on eggshells in your relationship because easily angered means you're walking on eggshells. Here's the powerful thing, it keeps no records of wrongs. It forgives. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, trusts, always hopes, and always preserves. Love never fails. Why? Because God is love. Hey, I hope this helped you out today, and I hope that you take this and look at your family system and refresh it according to the life of God, because God is life, He is abundance, He is love, He is powerful, He's creative, He's new every morning. And if you notice, legalism and all the religiosity associated with that is death, not life. He has come to give us life and that more abundantly. God bless you and have a super day and week.